Now, we have already talked about color lookup tables in our previous lessons, right? And we have also used it at length. So I thought, why not let's make a dedicated video about it so that we can make the concepts absolutely clear. So first of all, what are color lookup tables? Or in other words, what are LUTs? Well, first of all, LUT stands for lookup table, LUT, right? So color lookup tables are basically nothing but presets. Yes, that's all what they are. These are presets which can modify the color and luminosity. In simple terms, you can say that these are presets that can modify the color and brightness levels of highlights, shadows, and midtones, or you can also say exposure. You get the point. Now, the way it works is pretty simple. All you have to do is to click on the adjustment layer icon right over there and then go to color lookup, and we have already discussed this, and you can choose one of these presets. And as you can see, whatever you choose, no matter the extreme ones, they modify just two things. Color, as you can see, they have made it very bluish, and also they have made it darker. So they have modified the brightness levels. Also, they have added a fade to the shadows, right? So you get the point what they do. So you can combine these together to color grade your images. You can also use these as a starting point. You can also create your own LUTs. So I'm going to tell you how to do that in this video as well. First of all, let's start with color grading. If you don't want to use curves, if you don't want to use hue saturation, you can use this as a good starting point. I always use this as an ending point to kind of just add an overall effect to the image, maybe just improve something, maybe add a little warmth, maybe a little fade, just an extra something. Or maybe you can also use this as a beginning. But if you just want to use color lookup tables and just that color lookup tables, this is how you do it. This is how you combine it together. You can combine it in a lot of ways, along with blend modes as well and blend if too. So this is how it works. This is just one of those examples. So let's get started. So first of all, let's say you want to add a little warmth to this photo. So you can click on the adjustment icon and then choose color lookup. And by the way, if you have downloaded lookup tables from the internet or anywhere else, or you have created your own, you can also load your own lookup tables by simply clicking on this drop down and click on load 3D LUT. Once you click on that, a dialog box will show up where you can locate your LUT files. Alright, anyway, so for this one, we're gonna go with crisp warm to add that little warmth. Now, sometimes it might go black. This doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. This is just a Photoshop glitch. So it happens. Alright, just ignore that. Let's try to click on it again, and now it's fine. Alright, now double click on the right hand side of the layer. Why? Because we only wanted it in the highlights. So have a look at it first. So this is the before, this is the after. It's making the dark areas very, very dark. So we want to limit it to the highlights. So as we did with blend if before in previous lessons, double click on the right hand side of the layer. You just take the slider of the underlying layer right over there from left to right. This will take it away from the dark areas of the underlying layer, or the layer which is lying under it. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider to break it apart and take it all the way apart just to make the transition smoother. Alright, now the highlights is looking fine, but the shadows are still too fade-ish, right? So we need to make the shadows a little darker as well, but we don't want to apply the complete crisp warm color lookup on this. We want to apply it slightly. So why not make a duplicate of it just for the shadows so that we can control the opacity of that independently. So with that color lookup table layer selected, press Ctrl or Command J, color lookup adjustment actually, and then it's the same thing, but we only want it in the shadows. So you can double click on the right hand side of the layer, just reverse it. So first of all, this is how it was by default. We only want it in the shadows, so take it away from the highlights. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider to break it apart and take it all the way apart. So this one is just for the shadows, as you can see, but we don't want it so much in the shadows. So you can decrease the opacity to about 50%. Yeah, we are getting forward. So here's the before, here's the after, just a little bit of warmth. And from here, you can just take it forward. Now at this point, I feel it's just too contrasty. So we just need to soften it all up in terms of colors. So let's create one more color lookup adjustment layer. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose color lookup. And for this one, we're going to choose soft warming. That really works out to just soften things up here and there. So have a look. Beautiful, isn't it? But again, it's too much. It's taking away the colors, making everything a little magenta or pink-ish. So we need to decrease the opacity of this one as well. So let's decrease it to about, let's go for 42, 45-ish. So let's go for 45. That's pretty good. And by the way, to control the opacity, you can just instead of just typing, that's one way of doing it. You can click on the arrow, then control it from here, or you can just hover over the text, click and drag to the left to decrease it, click and drag to the right to increase it. That's something you can also do. One more tip, once you click and drag, I don't know if I've told you this before, once you click and drag, if you hold the Alt key and then do it, it will happen slowly, right? See, it's happening very slowly and minutely. If you hold the Shift key, it'll happen very fast. Look, just a little bit of movement and it just moves fast, really fast from 0 to 100. So if you want to fine tune it, if you want to go in high speed, you can hold the Shift key. If you want to fine tune something, so let's say I like 40, something in the 40s, right? So we're going to go to the 40s and then hold the Alt key or the Option key. Whoops, some Windows kind of stuff is showing up, don't mind it. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, and then when you do it, it's gonna fine tune it. So we're gonna go to 45 and stop there. Now after this, let's try something else as well. So click on the adjustment icon and then choose Color Lookup. And by the way, if you're using Windows, you have an advantage here. If you have a mouse, this is kind of not possible in Mac. In Windows, if you choose one of these, and then when you hover the mouse over it, and then with the scroll of the mouse, you can scroll through whatever LUT you want, and it shows you a preview of that. And if you leave it to that, this will be the result. So this is a good way, and this is only in Windows. Unfortunately, in Mac, as of recording this video, there is no way of doing that. So let's go ahead and choose one of these. Now, this one is interesting. I don't really like the colors, but the way it adjusts the contrast is brilliant. So how do we say to this adjustment that do not change the colors, but only the luminosity? Guess what? We're gonna choose the luminosity blend mode. So change the blend mode of this layer from normal to luminosity. That way it doesn't touch the colors, only the luminosity. So here's the before, here's the after. Look at the softness there, but it's still looking way too colorful. Why not? Let's add one more. So we're gonna add one more futuristic bleak. So let's just duplicate this one. So this one was futuristic bleak, right? Yes. So just select that layer, press Ctrl or Command J and change the blend mode to normal. Now we don't want 100% of that, so let's decrease the opacity. And again, remember, hold the Alt key or the Option key to fine tune it. So we're gonna fine tune it to about 25% and take a look at this. So here is the before, here is the after. Just look at it. Now, if you feel this is too much, select the topmost adjustment, hold the Shift key, select the bottommost adjustment, press Ctrl or Command G, and then you can control the opacity of the entire thing. So let's decrease the opacity, slowly and gradually increase it to a point which looks good to you. So for this one, we're gonna go to about 65%. That looks fantastic as well. Now, let me share with you one more thing. Let's ungroup all of this so that we can understand how this works. So all of these color lookup tables that you can see along with the blend if and the blend modes that we applied right here can be combined to one color lookup table as well. And that can be your LUT. And we were to discuss it in the third example, but why not now? So go to File, Export. Now keep in mind, for a LUT to be exported, you need to have a background layer which is locked. If you don't have it, so let's say you don't have a background layer and then you try to do that by going to File and then Export Color Lookup Tables, it won't export because it will say this document has no background. So if you don't have any background, just select the layer on which you're applying it and then go to Layer, New, Background from Layer. There should be an option there. Yes, Background from Layer. Choose that. Now this is a background layer. Now go to File, Export, and then Color Lookup Tables. Now there are lots of formats for Color Lookup Tables. You can choose whatever format you want according to where you want to use it. So if you want to use it in Premiere or some other video editing software or some other photo editing application, depending on what it supports, you can choose whatever format that works for you. Medium is fine. If you choose maximum, that'll take a hell lot of time and the size will be huge. So just choose the medium. It's more than enough. Cube is fine. Just check this checkbox. If you check the others, it'll also save in other formats as well. Cube is fine for this one. And just hit OK. Locate the folder where you want to save it, and let's save this one as Warm Unmesh. Funny. And click on Save. It's going to be saved. It's going to take a little while. So the next time you want to load it, all you have to do, you can also just delete all of this, right? You have your own LUT. So you can click on the adjustment layer icon, choose Color Lookup, and then click on Load 3D LUT. And then I'm just going to choose Warm Unmesh and click on Load. And see, it's the same thing. Isn't this interesting? So that's how you create your own LUTs and also import your own LUTs, both in the first example. Let's go to our second example. In this example, we'll color grade as well, but we'll go a little more advanced by masking according to color. So first of all, have a look at this image. What do you feel like you should do here? I feel like we should add a little bit more green to the background, not to the subject, not to the skin, but just the background and the leaves right there. For that, click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose Color Lookup again. And the one that we're going to choose here is Tension Green. Look at it. Very exciting color. Brilliant for the background, but not really brilliant for the subject. So how do we take it away from the skin? So here's how you do it. First of all, let's just turn this off, select the background layer, and then let's go to select and then color range. All right. Now I had already done it, so let me just do some random stuff. So in this case, I feel like it's easier for us to select the green. So first of all, from the select dropdown, choose sampled colors. You want to specifically define which shade of green we want to select, right? We want to just select it from the image. So choose sampled colors. Decrease the fuzziness to something like 9 or 10. So let's go for 10, all right? Now, make sure the selection preview is none so that you can see the entire image. And then with the first eyedropper, click on this green area. Also make sure the sample size is 3x3 or 5x5 so that you're not sampling just one pixel. You might sample a noise which might be of different color. So just click on in there. And also you don't have to check localized color clusters. It's not really required. Otherwise, only locally certain areas will be selected. We don't want it. We want to select it throughout the image. All right. Now with the plus eyedropper, start selecting different shades of green that you want to include to the selection. Now keep in mind, don't add everything. If you do, a little bit of the skin will also be selected. Okay. Now once you have done that, slowly and gradually keep on increasing it. Have a look. All of the background is now very nicely selected. If you increase it too much, it'll enter the skin as well. Now keep in mind in this preview, white are the areas which are selected and black are the areas which are not selected. Now, I know it looks scary. Anyway, so let's decrease this. And this is pretty nice. We're going to keep the fuzziness at about 75. What do you feel about that? That's good. And hit OK. All right. Now we're going to turn this on, select this mask and fill it with, guess what? We're going to make sure that the areas that are selected are there and it's already white. So we have to invert the selection by pressing Ctrl or Command and then Shift I. So it is Control Shift I or Command Shift I. This will invert the selection. Now we want to fill the rest of the areas with black. So select the mask, make sure the foreground color is black, press Alt Backspace on Windows, Option Delete on Mac. Okay. So now as you can see in the mask right there, let me make the thumbnails a little larger. See in the mask, the skin is black. And what is the concept of mask? Black hides and white shows. So it hides from the areas which are black, which is the skin. So it doesn't apply it on the skin. So here's the before, here's the after. Just look at it. Super amazing, isn't it? Super cool. Now we also didn't want it on the hair too much. So before, after, it also just crept into the hair. So select the mask. That's not a big deal. If you just want to see the mask, hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the mask, and only the mask is visible. We already discussed this. Now just start painting with black. You don't really have to be very accurate here. And if you want, you can, but that's not really necessary. You can also take it away from the eyes or the unnecessary areas where you didn't want it. If you didn't want it in the clothes, you could too, but that's fine. All right, hold the Alt key, the Option key, click on the mask again, and there you have it. Back. Interesting. So far so good. Here's the before, here's the after. Let's add one more. Click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose Color Lookup, and this time let's try what works for us. Crisp warm is good too, but I'm not gonna add it right here. It'll make it a little soft. 3 strip is black. Why? Photoshop glitch. We need to select that again. That's it. Look at it. Just look at the colors. It just makes the colors pop so much. I love it absolutely. But again, it's too much. So let's decrease the opacity. And let's fine tune it. We're going to keep it 50. Keep it a round figure. Pretty good. Now I feel like the tension green is just making the leaves too green. So we can go back here. And let's set the opacity to about 75 so that it's a little less intense. Green is less intense. So far so good. Let's take a look at it. Here's the before, here's the after. Just a slight change, but makes a whole lot of difference though. Let's go on. Click on the adjustment icon, color lookup again, and let's go through each and every one of these. To strip is not visible. We need to click on something else and click on it again. It's still not visible. Let's just let it go. And candlelight is really good. It's really good. But then again, we don't want it to take away the colors. So let's change the blend mode again to, guess what? Luminosity. Brilliant. Now the lips are looking a little weird. So select the mask right there. Take the brush. Black is the foreground color. Just erase that area. Erase the eye area too. Pretty good. Now again, if you feel it's too much, you can always control the opacity. Now I don't really like what it's doing to the dark areas as well. It's just kind of fading it too much, bringing too much green right there. If you're a fan of that, you can keep it. But what I feel is that I only wanted to apply it on the highlights. So double click on the right hand side of the layer and take it away from the dark areas by taking the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider to break it apart and take it away from the shadows. How does it look? See, the background pops up too much. So it's up to you. So here's the before. Here's the after. Here's the before. Here's the after. What looks good to you? It's up to you. Now I feel like a little bit of darkness in the background was also a little good. So we're going to make a copy of this. Select this, press Ctrl or Command J. Alright. And in this copy, wow, duplicating really helps. Just look at the image. So here's the before. Here's the after. Just adds a little more to the image. But I wouldn't go too far to add that much. So really just a little bit. Probably at about 40%. Okay. Let's make one more duplicate of that. Ctrl or Command J. And this one we're going to keep it at 100. And we'll only use it to darken the background. So double click on the right hand side of the layer. And then just reset everything to how it was. Hit OK. Or there's also one other way of doing it. Right click on it and then choose clear layer style. But that will also clear the blend mode too. Anyway, so change the blend mode back to luminosity. And for this one, we can just decrease the opacity. So we can keep it at about 35. Just a little bit of it was looking good. So here's the before, here's the after. Also, we don't want it on the face. So select the mask. Black is the foreground color. And then you can just paint this area with black. Yes, maybe on the clothes as well. On her hands. Right. We didn't have to be very accurate here. It's fine. Okay. This is just basically for the background. Here's the before, here's the after. Just darkens the background, brings our attention more towards the subject. Pretty darn cool. And now let's try to add some more to make this image a little more exciting. Let's do one more. Color lookup. And this time, let's try Edgy Amber. I always love this. Just look at this golden color. Brilliant. Now I also love the color. I also love the contrast here, but I don't want to totally take away the colors by adding a ton of yellow to it. So we will add it, but with a very less opacity. Something about 20 or 16-ish. So that looks good. Just a little bit of it adds a ton. Look at the retro effect it adds. Brilliant. Warmth. Totally in love with it. Now on top of that, you can add one more. You can just keep on adding these. So again, so we're gonna go with this. How does this look to you? This is too dark. What about this one? Look at the pinkness it adds. Look at it. Here's the before. Here's the after. Look at the pinkness in the skin. I like it a little bit. So we can just limit it just to the skin or maybe the subject by what? We already have a mask. So we can just hold the Alt key, the Option key, click and drag the mask and drop it to the very top. Yes, we want to replace it. Now we want just the opposite of this one. So select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. Now it's only on the skin. So you can decrease the opacity as well and keep it a little bit at about 30%. But you know what I feel? Really? Let's increase the opacity. If we had it opposite, so select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I, it was looking even better. So here's the before, here's the after. I hate to admit it. It's just looking better. And it's also taking the attention of the viewer towards the subject more because the subject has more contrast and the background is faded. This is pretty good. So again, you can just fine tune the opacity. So in this case, we're going to go with 60. So let's take a look. So here's the before, here's the after, just a little bit of fadedness in the background, and maybe we can even go 70%. Now make a group of everything. So select the first adjustment, hold the Shift key, select the last one. Now if you're thinking of converting all of this into a LUT, well, there's a problem with that. LUTs do not support masks. Once you export it, masks will be discarded, right? And there's a logic to it. Let's say you created these LUTs with a particular mask for a particular image of a particular resolution. Let's say while you were making these adjustments and you wanted to convert it into a LUT, you were working on an image which is just 100 by 100 pixels, right? Very small image. Then you saved that LUT and you wanted to apply it to an image which is 10,000 by 10,000 pixels. So how do you think those masks will be applied, or an image which is absolutely stretched, which is, let's say, 10,000 by 2,000 pixels? So things will get a little confusing and masks might not be applied properly because it was created with a different intentions. It really won't work. For that reason, masks are not supported in LUTs. So keep that in mind. So select all of these, press Ctrl or Command G, and here's the before, here's the after. Just take a look at the difference. Now, if you think this is too much, of course, we can decrease the opacity right there. So let's try 75%. How do you feel about that? So this is 75, this is 100. I feel like 100 is interesting as well. Let's keep a middle ground and let's go for 80 or even 90. Full 100 might be too much, but 90 is fine. Here's the before, here's the after. Just look at it. Absolutely different style. I'm in love with it. Now it's time for us to move on to our third example where I show you how to do it with adjustments. Now you can do it with whatever adjustments you wish. So all you have to do is to keep on adding adjustments. Just keep in mind, masks are not supported. So in this case, first of all, let's add a curves adjustment layer, one of our favorites. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. Let's add a little bit of highlights. Brighten the highlights a little bit, but we didn't want to brighten the shadows. So we can use the hand right there and just go to the shadow area right here and drag it down. Okay, this is just a little change here. Let's take a look. Here's the before, here's the after. Just adds a little something to it. Now we can go to the red, green or blue channel to modify them as well. So let's start with the red channel. Let's do simple adjustments. Let's add a red in the highlights. We want to create a warm scene here and let's take it away from the shadows. So in the shadows, cyans will be introduced. So let's just add it a little more in the highlights. Now let's play with the green channel. Now I wanted to introduce magenta overall, so you can click anywhere at a point and just take it down. We don't want to add so much magenta, just a little bit of it, but it's getting too magenta-ish. It needs a little yellow. So how can we bring about yellow? Well, just go to the blue channel because blue is the opposite of yellow and we need to decrease the blues to bring about yellows. As you can see, there's a lot of magenta in the highlights. So we will just create a point in the highlights and bring the blues down to just match it up and just compensate for too much magenta. This is pretty cool. But then again, the shadows are getting too bluish as well. So let's create a point in the shadow areas and just take it up just a slight bit. And take a look at the difference. Here's the before, here's the after. So much difference, right? Now on top of it, you can add one more adjustment. You can add hundreds of adjustments. It's up to you. For this example, we're going to choose selective color. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose selective color. Now this is a very interesting adjustment. What it does is that it targets the color of your choice, whatever color you choose from the drop down. So this is the target color. So if you choose reds, everything that is red in the photo will be targeted, and in that color you can modify whatever you wish. So if you want to add more reds to the reds in the image, just decrease the cyan. Why? Because cyan is the opposite of red. So if you decrease cyan, it'll add more red to the red areas. If you increase cyan, it'll take red away from the red areas. Now there's magenta. Do you want to increase magenta in the red areas, or do you want to bring about green in the red areas? Because green is the opposite of magenta. So if you decrease magenta, green is going to show up. Similarly, as you can see, there are different sliders for yellow and black as well. So if you increase the black, it will introduce black in the red areas. If you decrease the black, it will do the opposite. So let's reset it, and then you can modify it according to your wish. So I'm going to add a little red. Okay, and maybe there's so much magenta, I believe. So let's decrease the magenta here and just add a little more warmth and yellowness to it. Something like this. So let's go to the yellows and modify that as well. The best way to find out what would look good is just take the slider all the way to the right, then take it all the way to the left. Which one is more favorable? The left side in this case. So let's take it a little bit to the left. Similarly, let's do the same with the magenta. Whoops. Which one is more favorable? Nothing. We're just gonna keep it in the middle. With yellow, it is fine the way it is. Maybe we'll just decrease it a little bit, and let's go to the other. Now, besides all of these colors that you see here, there's also whites, neutrals, and blacks. White is for the white, so the bright areas, neutrals for the neutrals, midtones, and blacks as well. So let's go to whites and then modify these. Doesn't make much of a difference because there's not so much whites in this case. So you can also modify the neutrals. Neutrals make the most difference in most images. It is great the way it is, I feel. Maybe a little bit of black to the right adds so much punch to the image. Let's go to the blacks. I want to add a little bit of blues in the shadows. So simply just decrease the yellow. Interesting. Take a look at the background, so much blues in it. Now you can also increase the black to make it a little more darker. Wow, just look at the luxury velvet feel. So here's the before, here is the after. Just look at the look. It's interesting. Now if you want to convert this into a LUT, you already know what to do. Now keep in mind you already have a background layer in here. If you don't, you already know what to do. Let's go to layer, new, and layer from background from there. If you didn't have a background layer, choose that. Okay. Everything above the background layer, every adjustment there will be converted into a LUT. So go to File, Export, and then Color Lookup Tables. Now if you have similar photos or photos from the same shoot or even different photos, and if you want to experiment, this is going to be absolutely useful. You already know that. Let's save it just as cube. Medium is fine. Hit OK. And we will name this Luxury Velvet. Okay. Let's save it. Now, if you have similar images like I do right there, and you don't want to color grade all over again, of course you can copy and paste all of these adjustments. But if you have similar images or different images in the future and you want to experiment with LUTs, you have your own LUTs already. So click on the adjustment icon, choose Color Lookup, and then you can just load 3D LUT, and let's choose Luxury Velvet, load it. The adjustments look beautiful in this one as well. You can also try it in various other different types of images as well, like this one. Let's try Luxury Velvet. So we're gonna just load 3D LUT, choose Luxury Velvet here, click on load, and take a look. Before, after. Interesting here as well. But I don't really like this on the skin too much, maybe in the highlight. So you can always select the mask and just take it away from the skin, paint it right there. But it's not bad here. If we add a couple more lookup tables, it would look great on the skin too. Maybe I was thinking that if we go to Color Lookup and maybe let's try Edgy Amber just on the skin, and maybe let's decrease the opacity to about 15-ish or even 20. This becomes a completely different image, isn't it? So there you go. All the LUTs, how to create it, how to just import your own LUTs, how to use them, how to just blend, mix and match these LUTs, how to take your adjustments and convert them to LUTs, all about LUTs. in Photoshop. Now one more thing, you must be wondering, how can I have my LUTs show up in the drop down in Photoshop? So instead of clicking on load the LUT and then locating your LUT every time, how can I have my LUTs show up there in the list already? It's pretty simple. Once you have installed your version of Photoshop, now if you install a new version of Photoshop, it might be overwritten, just keep that in mind. So once you have installed your version of Photoshop, all you have to do is to go to its directory, find the LUTs and then paste it there. So in Windows, I'm going to show where it is. In Mac, I'm just going to leave a directory path right there. Just go there and paste it. Anyway, so for Windows, it is here. So all you need to do is to go to C, Program Files, or wherever your Photoshop is, Adobe Photoshop 2021, choose your version. If you have installed Photoshop 2020 or 2019, whatever version you're using, or 2022 if you're watching the video, then just go there and inside of that, go to presets, and inside of 3D LUTs, just paste it there. So I have the LUTs that we created, Luxury Velvet, Warm and Mesh. Let's copy both of these and just paste it here. Let's continue again. Now we have both these LUTs. It was asking for admin permission, that's it. Now they will not be right away in Photoshop. So if you go to Color Lookup, Luxury Velvet is not there. You have to restart Photoshop for it. So let me restart Photoshop and see if it's there. Now that we have restarted Photoshop, let's see if it's there. So click on the adjustment layer icon and let's choose Color Lookup. And here, let's see. Warm Mesh is there. And also Luxury Velvet is there as well. Isn't that pretty amazing? So that's how to have your LUTs in the drop down as well. I hope this video helped you. I hope you go ahead and just experiment with all kinds of LUTs. And also internet is full of so many LUTs. A lot of people are giving out LUTs for free, so you can check that out as well. Just be careful, don't download viruses as you just check out those LUTs. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.